Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Today, we're going to be diving into a paper. It's called Evolution versus Complexity, Debunking a Common Misconception. And,
Catchy talk.
yeah, I thought so too. And it's a pretty interesting subject. We all kind of, I think, have this image in our heads
Yeah.
of the evolution of man, right?
Yeah.
Starting with an ape-like creature
Uh-huh.
and then slowly standing more upright and, eventually ending up as us.
Right. Like a straight line.
Yeah, a straight line.
From simple to complex.
Exactly. And this paper's like, nope, not that simple.
That's putting it mildly. This paper really digs into how evolution isn't always about, becoming more complex.
Right.
It's about adapting to your environment, whatever works best for survival in that specific niche.
So, it's not always about adding, new features and getting more and more, I don't know, sophisticated.
Not necessarily, no. Think of it more like a branching tree. It's not a ladder. Each branch representing a different evolutionary path. Sometimes those paths lead to complexity, sometimes to simplification. It all depends on what's most advantageous for survival.
Oh, okay. I'm starting to see, how this is different from what I always assumed. So it's not like every species is on this march towards, higher and higher levels of complexity.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So can you give us an example of how, a species could adapt without becoming, more complex?
Sure. Think about something like camouflage, right?
Okay.
An insect that lives on a tree trunk. If it evolves to blend in with the bark, that's a huge adaptation for survival.
Right.
But it didn't necessarily get more complex, did it?
Right. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's just changing. It's just evolving.
It's about adapting. Finding the best solution to the challenges the environment throws at you.
And that solution could be to simplify, too, right? Like getting rid of things you don't need anymore.
You got it. And that's where things get really interesting. The paper talks about how sometimes becoming simpler is actually the best evolutionary move.
Whoa. Okay, so less is more in a way.
Exactly. The paper gives some fascinating examples of this. Let's take cave-dwelling animals.
Okay.
Over generations, many of them have lost their eyes and pigmentation.
Wait, what?
Uh.
How does that make sense?
Well, think about it. In perpetual darkness, eyes aren't doing them much good, are they?
Yeah, I guess not.
And producing pigment, it takes energy, resources. So in a cave environment, those features become unnecessary, even costly to maintain.
So evolution just kind of said, see you later, eyes. You're out of here.
Pretty much, it's all about efficiency. Losing features that aren't benefiting survival frees up resources for other things that might.
Wow, okay, that is so cool. What other examples are there?
Well, there are parasites.
Parasites, like the freeloaders of the biological world.
You could say that. They've really mastered the art of minimalism, evolutionarily speaking. They've gotten rid of all sorts of complex systems.
Like what?
Oh, digestive systems, certain sensory organs. They don't need them. They just hijack those resources from their host.
So they've offloaded all the hard work to someone else.
Yeah.
And in the process, they've become more, efficient themselves.
Precisely. It's a brilliant, if somewhat devious, evolutionary strategy.
Wow, nature is amazing.
It is, isn't it? And we see the same principle in the plant world, too,
Oh, really?
Yeah, those flowering plants, right, with the bright colors and the smells and all that.
Yeah.
They put a lot of energy into attracting insects to help them pollinate.
Right.
But some plants have switched to wind pollination.
Oh.
And they've ditched those fancy flowers. They've become simpler, more streamlined, because they don't need to attract bugs anymore.
So it's all about adapting to your method of pollination.
Exactly. If the wind's doing the work for you, no need for all that colorful extravagance.
It's so amazing how evolution can, find the best solution for each, unique situation. And it sounds like the environment plays a huge role in determining whether a species gets more complex or simpler over time.
It's the driving force. Think about it. Organisms are constantly facing environmental pressures, right?
Yeah.
And evolution favors whatever traits or solutions best address those pressures.
So it's not about getting more complex, it's about solving problems.
Exactly. And sometimes simplifying is the most elegant solution.
Can you give us some more examples? I'm kind of hooked on this idea now.
Sure. Okay. Think about deep sea fish, right?
Okay.
Pitch black down there. So some fish have evolved bioluminescence.
Oh, yeah. To light their way.
Right. That's a pretty complex adaptation.
It is.
But then you have flightless birds like ostriches
Yeah.
or emus.
Okay.
They live in environments where flying isn't necessary, right?
Right.
So they've actually lost the muscles needed for flight.
Yeah.
Their wings have become more simplified, because why waste energy on something you don't need?
That's a great example. So it's
Yeah.
like even within the same type of animal, like birds, evolution can take things in totally opposite directions.
Exactly. It's all about adapting to what works best for each specific environment. And even something as simple as bacteria can simplify.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They can shed genes, becoming more efficient in the process, especially if they've adapted to live in a particular host.
So even at the microscopic level, evolution is fine-tuning things, making them just right for their niche.
Always striving for efficiency.
It's incredible. And speaking of efficiency, we have to talk about bacteria.
Yeah.
They've been around for billions of years, right?
Right.
And their structure is relatively simple.
Yeah.
They really show that complexity isn't everything.
They're a testament to the fact that success in the evolutionary game isn't about how complex you are, but about how well you adapt to your environment.
It's like they're proof that simplicity can be a superpower.
Exactly. They've found their niche, and they've thrived in it for billions of years.
Amazing. This whole deep dive has totally changed the way I think about evolution. It's not a ladder, it's a branching tree.
And sometimes the most successful branches are the ones that simplify, streamline, and find elegant solutions to environmental challenges.
Adaptability is key.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So everyone listening, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. We've been talking about how other species evolved to be simpler or more complex. But what about us?
Interesting question.
What about human evolution? Have we always become more complex? Or have we simplified in certain ways too? Something to think about, isn't it?
Definitely. Maybe we'll need to do another deep dive to explore that.
Maybe we will. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.
See you then.